Good morning, responsible day traders. Today is Monday. It's Monday, August 30th, 2021. I'm Lindsay Duff, and this is Responsible Day Trading. Last week was pretty interesting. We actually made some new highs. I did end up trading on Friday. I only took one trade. We'll check it out after we look at what we anticipate today. So let's start out with the news. Guys, if you ever want to check out the news for the day, just go to responsibledaytrading.com/calendar-and-market-news. So calendar and market news, and you'll be able to find it. Or you can just go to the news, drop down here, and go to market news. So let's talk a little bit about what we anticipate this week. There is quite a bit of news. There's news every day this week, and most of it is during market hours. So 9 a.m., which is 10 a.m. Eastern time, because this is Central Time. We have pending home sales. Tuesday, we've got consumer confidence. Wednesday, we have a little bit pre-market. We have a 9 and 9:30. So these are market movers. That's why we see these three little bullheads. If you wanted to look at something that had lower volatility expected, you can filter it and change it to whatever you'd like to do. Thursday is news, but it's right before market opens. So if you are a pre-market type of person, you want to be careful with that, or just attentive of it. Not necessarily careful, just aware. And so Friday, we've also got news as well. So we have news every day this week. So just paying attention, and hopefully it gets the market moving. Okay, so let's look next at this daily chart. Guys, look at this. I mean, we're getting these tiny, tiny little BBs, big pullbacks, not enough to take us down to that next area, but still something that we can keep our eyes on. I love how these two are really, really meeting in the middle. Now let's talk a little bit about the MACDs. So they pushed up here. When they pulled back and we got this close towards the bottom, the MACD pulled back but never crossed that bottom Bollinger Band. It actually looks like it wants to go back above the top Bollinger Band, which would mean new highs. But, we're right here at this high. This BBs are very, very weak. So we'd really want to just keep our eyes on it, pay attention. If it starts to roll off this top Bollinger Band today and start to move to the downside, I'm going to anticipate the price to pull back a little bit deeper. Let's look at the 28,657, which is my next biggest tick chart. Okay, so we have a little bit going on here. And let me just pull this up just a little bit higher so we can get a better look at it. We have some potential for divergence. Now, it's always potential for divergence until it makes the turn, because this can still lift up and come higher and increase and exceed that area. Now, do I fully anticipate it to? Not really. I do expect this to push up a little bit higher with how weak these BBs have pulled down. We're at that bottom Bollinger Band. So I would expect this to pull up just a little bit more, maybe not necessarily exceed that high, but pull up a little bit more white BBs and then see it pull back down, because we are far from the EMAs. The price action in the MACDs are weak. Usually what happens at that is we get a sort of a snapback, maybe something even along the lines of this right here, which is a good amount of points to come back to that area. So that gives us a lot of opportunity to trade in between. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's happening currently. Oh, and we can see my one and only trade that I took on Friday. I mean, if you come back Thursday, there's my one and only trade on Thursday. Here's my one and only trade that I took on Friday. The price pulled back. Could have waited just a little bit longer to see this little bit happen. I got in more about right here as it was just starting to turn purple. Waiting a little bit longer would have given me just a little bit better risk management, although I was able to be right behind this area. And then when it pushed up higher here, and let me just kind of put a line on here so we can see what's happening. I want you to see what was happening on the 233, and then we'll go back to what's happening currently in the market. But whenever it pushed up a little bit higher here, what we saw happening, first off, the MACDs here were struggling to cross that top Bollinger Band. And let me pull this back just a couple of bars to right where I got out. It was struggling to cross that top Bollinger Band. We started pulling back down further. The MACDs here, what really sold me was the crossover right here, right when the BBs started telling me, oh, this is really struggling. If I had left my risk at a break even, definitely would have been hit. There was another opportunity to get back in here, but by that time I was done. I actually sat down just the last few minutes of the day, took that quick trade, which turned out to be 9 points for the day. So that actually had me end up with a total of, I think, 38 points for the week with only one loss. So 11 trades, one loss, 38 points. I'm okay with that. All right, so let's go back to what's happening currently, and let's just kind of leave that alone. Guys, this is all that's happened overnight. It's not a lot. So what that says to me is the market is moving like molasses. Now, if the market's moving like molasses, a couple of things that I usually take into account is that I'm either going to move down to the smaller tick charts. So maybe the 1597 becomes my larger chart, 233 comes into here, maybe a 55 tick chart over here. Or maybe I just bring the 610 in between the 1597 and the 233. But in that same breath, unless it starts to move a little bit better, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. So let's talk a little bit about, what we can anticipate just looking at these charts. So right now, the overall direction is definitely up. We're above the EMAs, we're above the zero line on all accounts. We're above the EMA on the 233, above the zero line. We're above the EMAs on the 1597, above the zero line. Same goes with the 10946. So are we seeing potentials for this to move back down? A little bit. So what's happening here is we're still outside of the Bollinger Bands, and the BBs are still purple and very, very weak. And what I mean by weak is they're not showing any potential to move to the upside right now. We have what looks like reversal bar potentials here. And if this BB starts to drop to the downside, we're going to see the price action probably either struggle to move up or at least start to move down just a little bit. We have MACDs and price both leading lower here as well. So they're leading lower even though they're back above. And if we look at where this high is, and I just kind of want to put a line right in here, I like to kind of look at a few different areas. Do I want to see where that last little high is? But that's so close to where we're seeing all of these closes right in here. So I'm going to move this up a little bit higher, maybe right in here where it encompasses this close and this close as well, just to say we've got some resistance area right up in here that we might see. And remember, it's an area, it's not exact numbers. So we see a resistance area where it can really give us a potential for a pushback down. Now, the 1597, which is my trading chart, the EMAs are weak. The MACDs are leading lower than our last high, same with the price. So, I would be watching for this to give a little bit of a pushback down. I'd be paying attention to right in this area and seeing what may happen there, and then see if it's going to roll off the area, because we're looking at immediate reactions. Is it going to roll off the area and push back up, or is it going to push back down past the area and finally give us moves back to the downside? Let me just tell you, looking at the 10946 with the strong EMAs to the upside, the weak MACDs to the downside, being above the zero line, it really tells me that even though it may pull back down later, not maybe immediately. We may see this pull back down a little bit and still give us some oomph to the upside. I'd have to see some changes in the MACDs here. I'd have to see some shift in direction, which means getting back below EMAs and back below zero lines to say, hey, now we're really looking for moves to the downside. All right, folks, that is going to wrap up Monday morning expectations. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes it's that way. We have to pay attention to what the market is telling us. It's very slow week movements that have happened overnight. So that gives it a little bit hard to anticipate. Right now, both the direction in the MACDs and the EMAs are to the upside. So I wouldn't anticipate this to continue up until we see a shift in that direction and in that dynamic. So it looks like it's trying to give a little bit of shift in that direction and dynamic, but until it gives me that oomph, I'm not going to just trade that wishy-washy I'm not really sure moves. I want to see some confidence behind each move. So that's all I got for you today. I don't plan on trading today. I have a lot of catch up to do. Had a pretty long weekend, so it's time to get back in the swing of things. So, all right, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful week. If you've got questions, hit me up, let me know. Today is the last day of the 40% off for you profit traders, so be sure you take advantage of that. And yeah, that's going to be it. All right, guys, have a wonderful week. And as always, you know that I look forward to catching you on the profitable side.